Hi everyone, it's Grant Abbott here, and also Michael. How are you, Michael? Do you have a good New Year's? And no doubt you've set down all your resolutions. Do you want to let anyone know what your resolutions are?
I'm fantastic, Grant. I mean, I'll delve into them a bit further later, but my resolutions and we discussed them with our team just before 31st of December, are to co-author a book with yourself,
Yep.
successful launch of Pepper, and continue to build out and develop our partner solutions for our community.
Yeah, well, that's quite good. I think we all came to that sort of stuff. I mean, the main thing is whether it's a resolution. There's a big difference between what we call a resolution, or when we set down a budget versus a wish. So, if I sit down and have a chat with my kids, I mean, they're forever wishing for things, but it never comes to fruition because a wish is just like you just give it away. What needs to happen is, particularly from a business perspective, we need to set a goal or a place where we want to be, and where we're going to look at today is the 31st of December 2021. And we want to get out there, and I'll show you a little trick, a little strategy at the end of this session, how to go out there, look back, and be in a position that everything you've done has actually been achieved. Because until we can achieve what our mind believes, and so what is just a little tool of putting a pre-program into your mind as to what you're really seeking to do. And that's one of the big elements around goal setting, is that as opposed to wishing. Goal setting, in order to really have an effect, you need to have obviously a lot of energy in there. You need to focus in on it, not on a day by day, but certainly week by week, and making sure that you stick to your goals. I think most of us end up with our goals to get rid of a few COVID kilos. I'm certainly probably packing a little bit at the moment, but at this present point in time, the more important thing for me is to make sure that I'm fit and healthy, because we've definitely started off out of the gun here at Lightyear Docs. I think last year, what did we do last week? I think we did $40,000, or wasn't it, Michael? So yeah, so that was a huge week for us. Yeah, for January, it's just amazing. So and we can already see there's a huge uptick there. So I've been building a lot of stuff in the background, which I'll talk about a little bit later in September. But when we're starting to do this business planning, Michael will come from a good, strong accounting perspective. I'll come from a more not a dynamic, but a different perspective of how to put your goals and make sure that they come through, and a few ideas around that one. The big one for us, though, is 2021. I know everyone wants to put 2020 behind us, but unfortunately, you can't do that. And you've already seen it up here in Queensland. There was a huge lockdown because there was one person with the UK mutant strain. And then, no doubt there's even the worst one, the South African double mutant double strain. So these things are going to pop up all the time in Australia. So it's a huge shock for us. And definitely from my perspective, is the one natural law that we can take away is that everything changes. So for example, if you ever look at the seasons, they change, night follows day, follows night, etc. So the natural law of Earth and the universe effectively is that there's always change. So we need to be preemptive change. And obviously there was a bit of a shock for everyone who really weren't prepared for change. I mean, Michael, from your perspective, I know you get out and about and talk to a lot of people, but for those people who weren't in the cloud, particularly when you get locked down, you've got to do work from home. I mean, have you heard any horror stories around that?
I have. I've actually seen a couple of horror stories too in relation to accounting advisory practices who are still stuck in, I guess, having on-site servers, using MYOB Premier and MYOB accountants on site, and not being able to continue to deliver services to clients, and actually having team members having to present at office when they didn't want to and weren't meant to be presenting at the office, and they've taken a significant hit to the revenue line due to that. Whereas
it was quite interesting. Yeah, go on, keep on going.
The proactive firms have actually increased their revenue line and have actually, I guess, got to the forefront of their clients again, where they should be as accountants and advisors, and even the planners, and knowing their clients' business and working with them on a more regular basis. One thing that government incentives has allowed is to bring forward the importance of the client and accountant relationship again.
And definitely one of the areas there that I see, and no doubt most everyone who's on the this session will have seen that, clients aren't reticent about jumping on a Zoom or a telephone call to catch up with you, as opposed to coming into your office, sitting in the office. That these days of COVID, that sort of style is completely changed, which means that you can be up in Byron Bay and still look after your clients if you happen to be in Melbourne. So that's quite COVID has actually brought forward, as far as my concern, or my belief is where we were going to go in terms of working from home, or being able to choose our desired work environment.
Yeah, agree. It's quite interesting. I spoke to, just on that work environment, I spoke to an accountant yesterday who asked me to JP a couple of documents for them and dropped into my home office, and another firm that I spoke to in the last couple of weeks who, quite surprisingly, they've got both large practices on the Gold Coast, don't have what they classify as a full-time worker anymore, not even a partner in them. That's two firms in the last couple of weeks have part-time and casual workers, whilst in saying that, the seniors and the partners seem to still work full-time weeks and full-time days, but they don't classify themselves anymore due to flexible working conditions, working from home, working out of the office, working on the road, as full-time office employees anymore.
Yeah, well, that's interesting, because they'll still be full-time, as you said, and salaried, or taking partnership profits, but they're not locked down to a fixed location, which really, if you have a look at how much square meterage is up for letting in office space in Sydney and Melbourne, and you think about it, I don't know if I was in a lift just recently, and there was 40 floors, and this was in a hotel, and there was only 3 lifts for it, and you can only put 2 people in per lift, and it was just taking such a long time to get up to your floor, that really the old days of having prime offices, whether you're legal or accounting or whatever, up on the top floors of buildings, is actually detrimental now. There's no way a client's wanted to go in and then have to wait 40 or 50 minutes just to go up the lift.
No, and I mean, and it filters down to the rest of it. I mean, obviously the partners and seniors are still working effectively full-time days now, but what was interesting is filtering down to the, I guess, the assistant accountant and administration level. There's a lot of job sharing, a lot more flexibility in the workplace, and I can only see that continuing and increasing. People want that work-life balance. It's important how you manage that within your team.
Well, I think, one of the ones there I've got an issue there. It's going to be extremely difficult to force individuals to come back to the office, just from an occupational health and safety perspective, is because unless you can guarantee a COVID-free workplace, which is virtually impossible, it's obviously going to run up against some occupational health and safety issues. So there's going to be a lot that comes out, and obviously JobKeeper, we're only a couple of months away from the full demise of JobKeeper, whether that's going to carry on. Cash flow bonus is finished, mortgage and lease relief is finished. So we're now really facing that tsunami of the issues around businesses, etc. which is important for all of our clients from a compliance point of view. From Venom Optimum, where you guys obviously work for the businesses who are on there, need help in that really dire financial situation. Are you seeing much uptick in work? Are you expecting a lot more uptick in work?
We're already starting to see a lot more uptick in work, but we're also expecting as well. We're speaking to a lot more people. I just saw a number of emails just come in prior to jumping on this webinar from our back office team who have been sitting on a number of calls and around strategies and everything. So, and we're talking to, I guess, competitors in the space and other players in the space who are increasing their workforce due to the uptick they're expecting, and we're certainly resourcing up as well. But we spent the Christmas break looking at our processes and how we can make things a lot more efficient in relation to handling the significant uptick we can see. I mean, as of 1 January, the COVID safe harbour is out the door, so trading insolvently is back on the table. And obviously, as you pointed out, JobKeeper goes, cash flow bonus is already gone, mortgage, rental, office rental relief is gone or in the process of going. And you're going to see, I guess, some of these, not just as, I mean, there's been a term of zombie businesses, but there's going to be an increased stress load placed on the businesses who have become reliant on these incentives and these reliefs. And we saw during COVID and a number of large businesses, so there's a number of large businesses in the retail space started falling over. And I think from the flow-on effect is you'll see the businesses that are below those start to feel a lot more stress as well, who maybe just sort of made it through because of JobKeeper and the like.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because there's obviously one thing I would give you as a strategy, everyone who's on this session, is that particularly if, look, I'll say it and then I'll put it over to Michael who can put his spin on it because I might be a bit deleterious. But from an accountant's point of view, if you've got a client that is running close to the edge, and particularly with the trading while insolvent issue now, you can either take, and am I right in saying this, Michael? We could either take that on internally, and let's say that, we've got a client that's running close to the edge. We might end up spending maybe 50 or 60 hours on that client easily. By the time you pick up, chat with them, folders, and of course, there's a lot of emotional stuff going on as well. So they'll want to be on the phone to you all the time. And when you look at that 50 or 60 hours, you're not going to get properly compensated for it. My view is it's better to move those over to a specialist such as Venom Optimum. You'll still get involved, am I right in that, Michael, and preparing all the final accounts, all of that sort of stuff.
Correct.
But you've left it to a specialist, so you don't have to handle all that emotional stuff and all those hours just dealing with a client in meetings, trying to find out work as a specialist administrator and solvency expert, when really you're better off spending time on the more productive clients, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I mean, and there's a significant amount of emotion involved in when you get to that risk point, when the client finally the penny drops, and there is concern that they're not continuing to be going concern, and it's often difficult because the accountant has a relationship with the client, and they also may be owed fees from the client, which is often a difficult process because they start questioning whether they want to continue doing work for someone who may be about to potentially fall over. Exactly. And they're finding it difficult to collect those fees. That's where we come in, or our team comes in, and directors who deal with those clients. And they whilst we still deal with the emotion, and generally there's a number of calls to go through in relation to that emotion. It's interesting sitting in on a number of them, and the amount of callbacks they get, because people sort of sit back and go, hang on, do I really want to move into liquidation, or do I want to restructure, or what happens to the creditors, what happens to my employees? And Generally people are concerned about those issues, but we will sort of hold their hand through that whole process and get them to make the right decisions. And it's often difficult when you're the accountant advisor to actually get them to move to that next step.
Yeah, look, definitely. And look, one of the most important things as we sit here in the second week of January is when you look out across 2021 and we look at our year, and it's obviously for all of us, it can be really easily busy. But the thing that we've got to look at, and the one that I always look at, is a return on time. So that when I'm doing a job, what return am I getting on that time? So, for example, one of the areas that I hate, and I know Michael, who's my accountant, probably hassles me, is doing all that administration and bookkeeping crap, because effectively I don't get any return or get very little return on that time. Whereas if I'm doing a moat and a castle for a client and I'm charging through Abbott-Family, say $20,000 for that comprehensive planning around all of their structures, whether they've got multi-trust, multi-companies, etc., with successor directors, blah, 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 all of that sort of stuff. That's going to be because we've automated, or I've automated in Lightyear Group, that's going to be the biggest deliverable in terms of the return on my time, which then takes us right back to the start. And I'm going to give you a bit of a thematic around here, is that we need to work out what business we're actually in. So with the business side of things, are we just in compliance? Are we just in tax? Are we in superannuation compliance? Are we in audit? Now, we may well have bits and parts of each and every one of those, but really, for our perspective, if we need to work out, well, what are we really going to focus in on? And it may well be that we can silo, and Macquarie Bank was very famous for this one, is to silo their different operations, have people doing different things, again, working out your return on your time. I remember way back in 1998, I was doing a lot of tax consulting. I'd started out my business, a lot of superannuation consulting, remuneration planning, like doing ESOPs that Michael and his team are doing now. I was right back there doing that, but I could see the growth in SMSFs, and in 1998 I committed the business I had then, which was Grant Abbott Consultants, changed it to the Strategist Group, and then effectively just focused in on self-managed superannuation funds. One of the good things about that is, look, I had a fantastic run over it, and still, all that history that's sitting there, there's not many issues that I can't work down or find in. I mean, the number of times that, and I even had a chat with Michael the other day, the number of times I have fights with people, auditors and others, who swear black and blue that every member must be a director or a corporate trustee or a trustee. And when you show them 17A3, you show the Commissioner's guidelines on EPOAs, how they work, and that how an accountant can be the sole trustee of a client's fund if the clients are living overseas or even just don't want to be trustees here. Now, it's probably something you wouldn't want to do, but just to know that there's that possibility. And quite often we live in, unfortunately, in this little belief prison that we're sort of sitting in, is that, we're stuck in there, we don't want to move out, but we need to work on that one. Now, 2019, as I saw, and probably a little bit further than that when I was at Now Infinity, I could see that SMSFs were becoming extremely mature. And really 2016, the budget sort of knocked it on the head of me when they've really brought in RBLs again with the transfer balance caps. And that will continue to dwindle. Obviously, our budget is in severe need of repair. So expect that, SMSFs and all superannuation for that matter will pay, unless they go to a full GST increase, will have to pay obviously a lot more into the budget. So I moved from there, and I could see, again, I like testing things. So I started testing that estate planning, asset protection, and succession space, particularly with an emphasis on bloodline planning. And I remember going out in October 2018 actually, and had some great reception on it, and found that I was talking less and less about self-managed super funds and more about succession, asset protection, estate planning, so that, you know, that's our major part of our focus here at Lightyear Group, is that's our claim to fame, and no one else is really moving down that track. And we're there to obviously help you as advisors. I can just go back to my grandmother, who, you know, was an amazing woman, good German stock, get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and she lived in a place called Munter, up in the York Peninsula, and used to travel in an old VW Beetle with no air conditioning, 100 miles every day to go to one of her hairdressing salons. So she always said that, look, the best thing to do is, if you're going to set up a business, make sure there's plenty of money flowing into that business. And from that, she had 5 hairdressing salons, and virtually she was the only salon in a lot of these regional areas. So she'd pop in on a Wednesday or a Thursday. She'd have staff in it rest of the week, but she'd be managing it. That was just amazing for me in the 60s and 70s to see a female, you know, running so many businesses and extremely well. And you compare that to my grandfather, who had one barber shop in Moonton and just used to walk there. You know, it was completely different. He didn't have much get up and go. But look, from my perspective, the biggest money pipe in town is that succession, asset protection, and estate planning space. You know, property comes and goes, shares come and go, investments come and go, but this passing on of three and a bit $trillion of wealth over the next 20 to 30 years is, for anyone, whether you're young or doesn't matter what age you are, this is the real game to play. And build under that umbrella, you can actually start to specialise. I was having a chat with someone just before who specialises in farming succession in the regional areas, but not just preparation of wills, but getting all of the family together and mapping out the process and the techniques around that. So it's a really high net worth, high touch, but look, it's a great business to be in. I'll just cover quickly and then I'll hand over to Michael, but I know this is a new area, and we're all innovating in this area, which is one of the reasons I'll talk a little bit later on, to give it some, not legitimacy, but to actually call it a specific industry. We need to set up an association. And look, I've set up a couple of associations in the past, been involved deeply with a tax institute. I was research director there, so I've seen what works as a good association. I've seen what is poor. You know, I was heavily involved in the setup of the SMSF Association, SMSF Members Association, and really have swiped all the resources and tools that I've learned from there and using it for this succession, asset protection, estate planning advisors association. So once we get that, then we've got a brand new ball game, a brand new advice area, which is, to me, is extremely exciting. Again, you're getting in on the ground floor and doing stuff that really no one else does. I mean, everyone does little bits of it, but what we're doing is starting it up. So the main thing is that don't be frightened. I'll be talking a little bit later on about an upcoming accreditation course, but don't be frightened of jumping in and starting to call yourself that you are a specialist in that succession, asset protection, estate planning space. And really, again, it's just giving yourself that time. And I remember seeing a good friend of mine who was working in SMSFs, and he was like, when I first started out way back in '96, he was just introducing me to, you know, heaps of leads, accounts and all that. And he was absolutely brilliant. And then he just gave it up and went chasing something else. And then came back about 7 or 8 years later and said, oh, look, I'm getting back into the SMSF space. Whereas if he'd stayed there, particularly his leadership and marketing skills, he would have been one of the biggest players in Australia. So the main thing is just to take it, spend the time in it, whether it's 1 day a week or commit at least, you know, 30 to 40 or 50% of your time, because the more, and here's a thought for me, the more you think about this space, the more you strategize in this space, the more you get clients in this space, the more the space becomes successful for you. Would you agree with that one, Michael? That if you don't give time to something, it can never be successful. But the more you give time to it, then suddenly you'll end up with more clients of that ilk, and they're more of those high net worth clients. So I think that's pretty important. Use your existing client base as a guinea pig, because effectively, remember, this is a premium service that you're offering. And particularly if you get the accreditation, you can go out to the clients and just say, look, I've got a new accreditation, got a brand new string to the bow. I'm not doing compliance, we're still doing compliance and all that, but we can offer these new high value services. So once we get there.
I think an interesting point on that, Grant, in terms of existing client bases, you see people chasing new business all the time on new clients, and they don't realise how much is actually in their own existing, at their own home, I guess, that they can access and provide a number of advisory services within their existing client base.
Yeah. Well, I think if we have a look at, we're having a chat with My Prosperity. So Lightyear Group Lightyear Docs are going to roll out through My Prosperity, which is very exciting. But they sent out information to their advisors' clients. And the big thing that came back, or one of the big areas that they want, is in that estate planning and asset protection. So, the work is there. The clients want the work, particularly after COVID, whether it's Advanced Healthcare Directive, EPOA, will testamentary trust, SMSF wills, the protector, if there's going to be issues around family provisions, all of that sort of stuff is sitting there. And it's really, from that perspective, is a matter of getting out. Now, I'm going to give you another bit of a hint here as to one of my, I suppose, my claims to fame. And I know my people I work with in business hate is quite often I will go out and market to clients. And we've got some great email campaigns. Change GPS, I know Tim's got some fantastic letters on the range of moat strategies and protectors and all that. I'll go out and market it to clients. In the past, for us to be advisors. And if we didn't have the product, then I'd build the product on the fly. Now, the good thing about that is we've already got all the products and services there for you. So it's a matter of just stepping into the water, and I'll show you a little bit later on. I'm going to hand over to Michael now, but we'll show you what Michael's done a fantastic little spreadsheet there for you to show you the sort of strategies, the costing, the numbers you can put in yourself, which will work out what the bottom line is. But, from our perspective it's just a matter of saying, okay, well, this is a new space. I'm going to get accredited. Let's put my new hat on as a SUPEP advisor, and then let's start to move down that track and put more and more of my thinking in there. As Dan said, I better thinking about that than worrying about COVID, etc. Anyway, Michael, do you want to take it away? Just tell me when you need me to change the slides, mate.
Oh, well, thanks, Grant. So we'll just start on this slide. So what I've gone through here is I'm talking about the planning process that I went through personally this year in 2021. And Grant started off talking about New Year's resolutions. They do work for some, but for me, I believe it sets you up for failure or disappointment. We've used a New Year's Eve retrospective look-back process, which I'll go through shortly. But really what it comes down to is what works best, I've found works best for me and continues to work best for me, is to plan again, document that planning. We talk about documentation and the importance of having the right documentation at Lightyear Docs, but documenting that plan and that strategy and then executing it, and continually looking at that execution and revisiting that document and your plan, and if you have to change it, updating it and keep moving forward. And so plans are inherently strategic. We talk about getting down to business planning, and a lot of people focus straight away on the business forecast models and the revenue and the costs, and where do we save costs, where do we make more revenue. But for me, I believe that all folds out. It's important to have, but it all folds out if you have the right strategic plan in place that you planned, that you document and execute. And that comes down to, where am I headed? And that doesn't just have to be business. I've been looking. I look at where I want to be, I guess, in life, my family, myself personally. How do we get there? How do I get there? And what do we need to do to get there? Just jump on the next slide, Ryan. And I'm going to be delivering a number of partner solution webinars kicking off in Q1 this year that will help, and we'll start doing some deep dives, and we'll have some workbooks where we work through solutions and how our partner solutions can help. And it'll just not be only Lightyear Docs partner solutions, but we'll look at technology app stacks and a few other things, and where we can help from small practitioners through to the medium and larger ones. So just jumping again. So new year, new me. I've got my little emoji there. Resolutions versus strategic planning. So resolutions tend to be, okay, I'm going to get fit and healthy. I'm going to have a better work-life balance. I'm going to take a break from alcohol. Been drinking too much during COVID. I've been eating too much. I want to be more successful. I want to make more money. But what does that mean? So you write down these resolutions. So a lot of people put them up on social media now, and they forget about them. Or they might join a gym. They might get a personal trainer. But they fail to plan how they're going to execute that and continue to execute it. I've been a big one who's done that. I'll put my hand up. I'm sure Grant's put resolutions in place that you get to the end of the year and they're forgotten and fallen at the wayside. Your planning and your business process can't be based on a number of resolutions and hope that you're going to get there. You have to put that plan into place, document it, and execute it. We went through a great process this year where we got together just before 31st of the 12th, 2020, Grant and the whole Lightyear Docs team. And we talked about, like, I use it as an opportunity to discuss sales opportunities, growth opportunities, our partner solutions to the team, and you know, sort of really ramp them up. Grant and I both are big believers that 2021 is going to be a huge year for our business, huge year for us personally. Plenty of opportunities, and I believe there's a lot of opportunities out there for everyone as well. So what we did was, one of the great things that Grant put out to the team before we got together, and I've actually sat down with a number of clients and also a partner that I'm going to be bringing to Lightyear membership base as part of our ESOP offering, and who's now taking it back to their own business. He thought it was such a great idea, is that Grant sent out an email and said, I want you to do a New Year's Eve retrospective resolution, not a resolution on what you want to achieve over the next 12 months, but effectively what he asked was, the time is New Year's Eve 2021. So we're 31 December 2021, the end of this year. And as you look back on the year, what has been your 3 biggest achievements for 2021? So this allowed staff to then sit back and say, okay, I've got to the end. I've set my plan. I did set my plan at the start. I documented my plan and I executed my plan. And these are my 3 achievements. And as we said at the start, 3 of my achievements were to co-author a book, which I'm co-authoring with Grant. And so it'll be my first book. And I can't wait for that to get out, on succession, asset protection, estate planning. And another one was to increase, obviously, the Lightyear Docs membership base, but more importantly, to grow our partner solutions. So that's one area that I'm going to specifically be concentrating on, and not just grow them, but also make them more effective and efficient and how we deliver them. And I've been talking to Grant about ways we're going to do that. And I'll be working with the likes of Tim on how we work with Change GPS, how we work with I Love Accounting in terms of ESOP planning, offshoring, outsourcing, other solutions, how we work with Eventum Optum in terms of how we deliver that and how you can actually benefit from delivering that to your clients where it's needed. And so I've got those, and we sat around as a team, we went through them, didn't we, Grant? And we all documented them. And I've actually printed mine out, and I'm going to keep reflecting on it during the year and work out ways of how I'm going to get those, so I can look back and I have achieved, well, I believe I'll have not only achieved those, but smashed a number of other ones as well as I readjust and reset throughout the year.
One of the ones on there is the purpose of the exercise is, I've been doing it for a long time, is once you put yourself out on your timeline to the end of 2021 and look back on your 3 biggest achievements, what happens internally within your mental process in your unconscious mind is that looking back, flicks a switch inside the brain that says it's already been achieved. So as long as you've got those in front of you and you can picture it, and it depends on what modality you work best in. I work best in obviously the visual side, but if we can get a good picture of what those three biggest achievements are and what they look like, and just focus in there, but again, focusing from the end is important. Now, one of the big issues that I can warn you on is quite often when we go through this process, and I know we're going to put a lot of plans in place, but it's the same thing as if I'd got you January last year and I said, okay, let's do our January, we're looking at New Year's Eve 2020. I'm sure if you had all these, big achievements, you probably would have done it, but you've done it in a way completely differently. So, for example, there might have been many accounting firms said, look, we want to increase our revenue by 20%, blah, blah, blah. And you probably did through JobKeeper and all of that sort of stuff. So when you go through, it's to focus in on those achievements and also get all your team. And the reason I got the team to do it is because if one of my team says, okay, well, if my key salesman says, because we've got 100 licensees and strategists now, and we've now got a really good solution we've been building for 18 months, so we want to get that up to 300, which is I think 0.5% of the accounting and planning fraternity, not even that. So it's not a huge issue for us. But if my sales guy says that his goal is to put on 50, and then Michael and I are saying we want to get to 300, then there's obviously an issue. So it also shows you congruency between different members. It also puts them in the spotlight in that they need to share. And as I said, from the perspective is, don't get caught up on you must do this, you must do that, you must do this to get that result. Because I can tell you from my perspective, I just look at the bigger picture, and quite often I'd have no idea how it would go out. So a classic one, if you don't mind me just going on there, was the start of I think start of this year, or Michael was involved around about February, March. We're moving to a new Lightyear Docs 2. So the system we've got now is 20 years old. It's fantastic. I love it to death. But we've got, for all our strategists and licensees, we've got even a next level above that. So the current system you'll be using will be mainly for PAYG, and we'll be pulling all the main automations over to the new platform. So we needed to get some more money in order to acquire the platform, build it in and set it up. So for our VIP area, so you're going to be super, super excited about that. So that's what I'm saying is don't even worry about how you're going to do it, because there's things coming down the track that you're not aware of. But the main thing is that at that point in time, we'd been through a crowd funding before and that didn't really work. So we built it, but all I was focusing in on myself was to see a very successful capital raising on the 1st of July, because we quit out at 30th of June. And for me, a successful was getting between $300,000 to $500,000, because our cap was $500,000. And, we set it up well. It was extremely fairly priced when you have a look at where we're going, extremely fairly priced. And then lo and behold, Mick came back to me and closed it out. What do we close it out at?
It was about 990.
I know. So we doubled it. And again, it was more about focusing on what our achievement was, how it ended up. It's not an issue. It's unless you, as they say, if you shoot for the moon and you hit the stars, well, happy days. But if you don't shoot for the moon, if you're just looking at getting over the next suburb, this day and age, you never know what you can do anyway, because the next suburb might be closed down anyway. But let me go on with next one for Mick in terms of action and planning.
Yeah, so that's just a brief slide in relation to that plan, document, execute again, and I guess I've got a little graph there where idea, that's sort of the resolution that you come in. A lot of people come in at the start, but they then don't plan and execute that in terms of where they're headed. And as I said, plans are inherently strategic. Lightyear's Docs is focused on strategy, and we should all be doing that in now everything we do. I focus on not only my clients, but my clients' businesses, my own businesses, the advice I give, and the life I live now. That I build everything behind that. I'm using a tool this year, Project Evo. I know Grant's ordered as well, which looks at what your brain type is and stuff. And so it sort of structures itself around it. There's many tools out there, but I'm using it and documenting it on a monthly, weekly, and daily basis around a number of key areas in my life and my businesses. And I'm finding it quite good so far, but it's actually helping me to continue to execute and put into action that plan.
Also, I think on the strategic planning as well, it's important to recognise that you should have self-awareness. All of this is self-awareness. So, when do you work best? So for me, I write best. So I get up generally most mornings at 4:30 or 5 o'clock if I want to have a sleep in, and I'll work pretty solidly for 2.5 hours writing. I did all the standards for SMSF for the competency standards. I've almost finished those in record time. When I think the original ones I did for the for RG146 for SMSF advice took, probably there was a group of us, maybe 3 months, and I did the ones for SMSF. I'm providing advice for succession, asset protection, estate planning in maybe 3 days, because I did it at a time when that was the best for me early in the morning. Whereas if I try to do that in the afternoon, I'd be fritzed. Afternoon is a good time. If you ever want to catch up with me and have a chat about business or what you're up to, or you've got some good marketing ideas or whatever, afternoon after 2 o'clock is the best time for me. So again, we need to just work out, where we're really focused in on. To do documents or change of documents, probably me is that mid-morning where I've still got some clarity, but I've put into that detail mode as well, as opposed to writing, which is a fairly open mode. So, the beauty about where we're going in COVID and working is that we do have that flexibility to really strategically plan our day. And I'm looking forward to my Evo planner, because I'm an explorer. Michael, you're an architect, aren't you?
Or, I'm an architect.
Yeah. So
I think I did the test 5 times because I wanted to make. And I changed a couple of answers, which I thought would work. I wasn't 100% sure of it. It's kept coming up as architect. So it's quite good, because it actually shows us how we can work together as well in terms of what you're saying.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. So more on strategic planning. Yeah,
so my strategic plan for 2021, these are the key areas I looked at. Obviously, everyone's going to be a bit different, but I think that these are important areas for advisors, accountants, planners, brokers, even lawyers. But so my plan has been based around, and I've brought a number of people in during the planning process who are going to assist with that, but it's been getting the right team. And the right team is not necessarily, I've got an internal versus external. I think a lot of us concentrate on getting the right team internally. I've learned, I guess I work on a number of businesses. A lot of people use the terms on and in businesses. I work on a number of businesses. I do work in those businesses as well on certain advisory roles. And in terms of Eventum Optimum, I love accounting. I probably work more hands-on than the Eventum Optimum, but Eventum Optimum, I'm working in advisory capacity as and when I'm needed, but we've got the right team there, the right director in place, and the right team sitting behind that person. And so we've got an external, for that particular business, we've got an external team, a back office team that we utilise. We've also got an internal team. So it's important to look at, I guess, your capacity planning and what you've got internally, what you can use externally. And externally doesn't necessarily mean outsourcing, offshoring. It can also external partnering with the right people. So partnering with Lightyear Docs, partnering with Eventum Optimum or someone else similar in the space, partnering with a Change GPS, partnering with an I Love Accounting in relation to, I'm doing a number of ESOPs for a number of Lightyear members at the moment. I'm doing it, and they're ESOPs for their own business. So they're accounting, I'm doing one for an accounting business we're talking to. and we're also doing for the external clients. So it's not about trying to do everything yourself, but as Grant pointed out before, is doing the things that are right within your business. So I see key areas advisory, and I think it will continue to be so, and it'll continue to grow. You look at the top 100 accounting firms, the growth they're experiencing in revenue is through advisory, not through compliance. It's having the right tools at your disposal. So the right document providers, the right applications, the right app stacks, and the right processes, and also the best way to communicate. And that can be internally, externally. What channels do you use? So I'm spending, after I jump off this webinar, I'm spending most of the afternoon with a digital website, digital marketing, and also an application provider in relation to how we can provide better processes, and also how we can communicate better in the year ahead. So it's an important process to partner with the right people in relation to that, and for them to understand. So the session I've got this afternoon is a deep dive into getting to better understand the different businesses we've got, and the different channels, and the branding and how they work together. So if you find you're working with someone who doesn't know your business, or doesn't even try to know your business, they're probably not the right partner. So it's important that you do partner with the right people. Just the next slide, Grant.
Yeah, just on that one, I'll give you another great tip here, particularly if in this succession, asset protection, estate planning space. Look, we've got plenty of letters you can use up on the in our strategy centre, whether it's for change of SMSF or upgrading deeds, talking about the difference between a discretionary trust and a leading member discretionary trust, that idea of succession. I've got plenty of data captures around the and letters around wills and enduring powers of attorney. I know Change GPS have got a really comprehensive one. You know, don't go past the old school. Is that really we see so many emails, we see so many messages, and we don't really have a huge amount of value for those. But to go old school, get a print a letter up on your letterhead, put it in an envelope, mark it private and confidential, send it out to your client with whatever you're looking to inform them. And I tell you, it'll be treated with a lot of respect, and also they'll sit and read it through, probably not only once, but also twice, which is why they send bills by way of paper.
Correct. And even to follow that, I mean, in terms of old school methods, using your phone. So you could use the letter, then follow it up with a phone call, or even scheduling time to make phone calls, rather than just sending emails out. And I mean, obviously you can't make phone calls to your whole client base, but specific areas where you see that you can actually assist people. So just going further into the right team. So one of the key drivers of success, I believe, in any business is the right team structure and the right skills. So we've been sort of reviewing what that means. And do I need to build this internally, as I said? And because one of the big important things is capacity. I've listened a fair bit to a number of people on this. Rob Nixon is one of the people who's really big on capacity and building out capacity. And one of the things I've taken away of recent times is scheduling your capacity and how you schedule your team and even your year around capacity in terms of dealing with, and I'm drilling it down to our different businesses in terms of how you deal with clients and actually scheduling clients in so that we know where our capacity is. And that's where you can start to look also, okay, I don't have the capacity internally, do I go externally? And I mean, we use outsourcing, offshoring ourselves at Lightyear Docs, don't we, Grant? And we use that very successfully. I jumped off a call before I jumped on the webinar talking with my BPO provider over in McCarty, and I've got a very good, solid relationship with them. It's a relationship that's been built up over 10 years, but I've got a good partner in place there that I can trust. I know delivers all the time, and when I need a new team member, it's fairly much a bolt-on solution now. Obviously, you've got to train them. You've got to do exactly the same as if they're in office internally, whether they're onshore or offshore. You've got to put time into people, and you'll get results if you do, regardless of where they're located. And I think COVID's really presented a great opportunity to actually sit back and look at that solution. And that doesn't necessarily mean offshore. It can be outsourced. It might be even more flexible working places that you can build up your capacity through. But partnering with solution providers is very important. I mean, Grant's talking about before our solutions in terms of letters, and Change GPS has an amazing solution in relation to sending out correspondence to clients, whether it's via letter or email, and solutions across the board in terms of that. And that's a perfect partner to deal with. Abbott-Family, that Grant, just before Christmas, he said it brilliantly, said, you're providing a lawyer in your office is what Abbott-Family does, without that high overhead of having your own legal team. And I think that's absolutely perfect to think of it in that way. EO has your business turnaround, insolvency, pre-insolvency, asset protection, restructuring partner. I love accounting through ESOPs and through outsourcing, offshoring, and accounting solutions. Then the right tool. And I'll be going through, as I said, solutions in relation to this in Q1 2021. Starting off, I think on about the 18th or 21st of January, there's a schedule coming out with all our events at the moment, but they will look at different partners. And it's not just those partners down there. We'll be talking about with a number of different app providers, solution providers in the marketplace, and ensuring that we're providing the best solutions that we can, ones that I use myself, and ones that we'll be reaching out and speaking to our member base and taking feedback and seeing what everyone else uses out there. Because just because I use something doesn't mean there's not another tool out there that might suit various people. And we'll be looking at the different, I guess, our different people within our member base. So our small sole practitioners to our larger partner firms and our other advisory firms, and what are the best solutions you can provide to them. If you just want to jump on the next one, Brian.
Sorry.
Next slide. So finally, clients. I mean, it's an important time to look at your clients now as well, in terms of the service offering you got, what you can provide. That's, instead of bad, that should say business as usual. But if you're going to have clients that are sitting in the business as usual process at the moment, there'll be clients who are experiencing growth. Accounting firms have been experiencing, or should have been experiencing, growth through COVID for the additional services and touch points they should have been with clients. So again, you're going to have clients who are declining, and you're going to have clients who are sitting in, I guess, that risk area where you've got to start speaking to external advisors in relation to what you can do, what they should be looking at and considering. And accountants are in particular at the coalface in relation to that, in terms of the growth of declining in risk, or even the business as usual. I mean, in terms of risk, you see clients, and one of the biggest indicators is not making BAS payments, not lodging BAS returns, missing superannuation payments, outstanding accounting fees. Once you start seeing those indicators, you should actually be, you're going to have potentially growing number of clients who are in that space. And it's important that you provide them with the right advice. And that talks about capacity planning again. How can you continue to develop that service proposition that Grant talked about? New clients, do you want new clients, and who are they? And focusing on the ideal target clients. And I think that is really focusing on that advisory client space. And how do you then attract them? So we'll be deep diving into some of these areas and bringing partners on board, and not just partners, but providers who you can talk to, and just give you some food for thought as well. And all of that obviously leads into, which Grant and I will be talking about in a sec, for our own practices, is that pricing, margins, revenue, and then obviously profit. So at the end of the day, the reason I know I'm in business is to make a profit and generate revenue, and obviously provide a solution to our clients. But I obviously want to be doing that at a profit as well. So.
Okay, so one of the areas I think that if you can take away from here, and I'll say it now and I'll come back later, is we're going to show you obviously a lot of strategies, and we'll take you through the spreadsheet. But essentially, if you gave, because a lot of us aren't spending a huge amount of hours in this particular area, but if you could manage 8 hours a week or one day just focused in on this area, that, when you're looking at that, that's, probably got maybe 40 productive weeks a year, 8 hours. So that's 320 hours a year. What would the result be if you gave up 320, well, actually didn't give up, you invested 320 hours in this high level advising area? Particularly if you're accredited. I think once you're accredited, I can tell you from what I've seen with the SMSF Association going to take off, because it'll just be, well, hold on, I'm accredited, I'm authorised to work in this space. Now, what I've got there, and Michael and I worked on it this morning, and what we're looking at is the various strategies we've got, and we'll send out this. This is really a good basic one you can put in your numbers. So, for example, the director or successor director solution, particularly for sole or mum and dad clients, you need that over, particularly trustee companies in family trusts, family protection trusts, leading member trusts, not so much those because they've got their own built-in successor director, but definitely SMSFs. So it's worthwhile putting those in. Again, we've got a letter there for that if need be to send out to your clients. You've got a couple of hundred clients there at $330 a piece, and you can charge more if they've got 2 or 3 or 4 companies. That's going to deliver you $66,000. So you guys are accountants. This is not rocket science. SMSF Upgrade. Look, I'd be getting, if you've got SMSFs, upgrading them all onto the platform. There's a letter there why you should be upgrading. In fact, why it's dangerous if you haven't upgraded in the last couple of years, particularly where the Commission is taking very aggressive stands in relation to investment strategies and documentation. So again, if you've got 100 deeds there, 330, we're moving to an auto upgrade solution with the new Lightyear Docs 2, which will be available. We just couldn't do it with the new system, which will be available to auto-generate the new upgraded SMSF deeds each year by reference to a page on an Abbott-Family site. And then so you'll be able to get your clients onto an annual upgrade. So then you don't have to do any work. So you can sign them up to that, or at least get them onto the existing platform already. So they're using one of our Lightyear Docs deeds, which really is second to none. It's a good time to go through and get rid of all that crap. Commission has given a ruling that if you go and upgrade your discretionary trust deed, that effectively there's no resettlement for duty and also CGT purposes. So when we have a look at that, all you have to do is I've given you suggested pricing there, and then you just put your numbers in there. So let's say we've got, we send out to our clients, we've got 200, and we've got a 50% conversion. So that'll show you the sort of money that's available. Investment strategy, look, you can't get around that one. That has to be done. In fact, I'll be doing it virtually in probably January, February this year. Absolutely crucial. If you've done the investment strategy in the past on the Lightyear Doc system, then it's very easy to do this year's, because all you have to do is just go in and change the year, change the ages of the members, and then you're off and running if there's been no change in the ultimate asset allocation. So again, through the Lightyear Doc system, you still get the same money, but the amount of time that's involved to deliver that revenue is going to be extremely small. Trust distributions, they're coming up as well, obviously. Leading member, if you want to go up to that level, again, we've got explanation on why we want to use a leading member trust as opposed to an ordinary discretionary trust. All of this information sitting up on the Strategy Support Centre. Once you start dealing with that, if you're going to upgrade your clients to leading member discretionary trust, and a leading member SMSF works really well. The price on that is a premium price, because effectively, if you have a look at discretionary trust, the only people who can be beneficiaries are your bloodline or the bloodline of the leading member, and more importantly, is also going to be any companies or SMSFs or anyone they're involved with. So that's a high premium. You can go through and have a look here. SMSF Will Simple, Complex, pricing on the EPOA Will and the Complex. For the complex ones, generally you're going to want to have Abbott-Family sign off. So that's $495 in terms of that. When I mean sign off, actually have a meeting with a client. We go through the process, particularly if it's a compliance issue, and we'll cover that there. So all of these are just per individual. So for example, if you've got mum and dad wills there, you might do 500 for one, but you might charge $750 for two of them. And likewise here, you might charge 3,200 for complex wills. So again, these are just our suggestions. You can go in and change it. Say, okay, well, I'm going to charge 2,500, and then that will include the Abbott-Family fees, and that'll sort of give you an idea there as well. The protector, when we've got there, is again, I find that I'm using that more than complex wills, because unfortunately with complex wills you just get caught there. To do protectors, you know, if you're looking at doing 2 a month at $4,500, this is where the real value is. And as I said, the moment the castle, which I'll be explaining a lot more detail, you guys are going to get on top of this really quickly. But you know, I charge generally between $25,000 and $30,000 through Abbott-Family to do a client in a moat and a castle, and they might have 2 or 3 trusts there. So there's a few add-ons. So $15,000 is really you're putting a moat around all their clients' affairs. So that sort of gives you an idea. Go in and put the fees in there that you see there. Brett Edmonds, good to see you, Brett. Are we able to do SMSF investment strategies? Absolutely. There's actually a ASIC guideline on that. If you want to write to me, and I can send that out to you, but there's an ASIC guideline saying that accountants and tax agents can in fact do investment strategies, because you're not dealing with financial products per se. You're not dealing with specific financial products, and you're not dealing with a member interest. So a member interest is, for example, making a contribution or taking a lump sum or setting up a pension. Investment strategy, you're just doing broad asset allocations, recording from the trustee. More importantly, we've got a good data capture and a letter you can send out to the client in that regard in your strategy center, which also disclaims you from any liability in that regard. So what I'd suggest is, yeah, go on.
Sorry, we'll also, we're just jumping in, which we'll talk about again in a sec, but we've got a webinar tomorrow on, in relation to further partner solutions around registering mortgages and PPSR, and also stamping of trust deeds. So where we've got the partner solution there, you'll be able to add in any pricing in relation to getting that more so under the moat and castle, the protector, getting the, where you have a related party mortgage and it needs to be registered in any state in Australia. We'll have that as a solution we'll be presenting tomorrow. And obviously discretionary trust, when I say discretionary trust upgrades, we've got the New South Wales foreign exclusion in terms of that came in as of 31st of December, that in terms of getting that stamped, and also other states where you need to or want to get SMSF deeds or trusts stamped. We'll have a solution that we're putting forward tomorrow, and so there'll be a partner solution or fee in relation to that. That will, and then you can set your gross fees around that using this table.
And what we'll be doing there, Manish, is I'll be sending the slides out. So the session will be recorded. You'll get an email this afternoon, which will have a link to the session. You also, in that email, you'll get access to this Excel spreadsheet. You know all of these sort of things, so it's a matter of just putting in the numbers, and that then will give you your achievement. And I would say the more time you spend on this area, the more value, because there's some easy money to be picked up there in terms of things need to be done. You know, that successor director solution, deed upgrades, investment strategies. You have to do that. Now we've put our pricing in there, which I think is right on point. It certainly seems to be what everyone is charging. But you put your pricing in and then work on that one. So that's pretty crucial. So we'll send that out, the slides, the Excel spreadsheet, etc., and then we'll take it from there. A couple of things there from, as I said, is let's go to that high level. One of the books that that I have been reading over the break, and I haven't read it for a long time, and that was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And look, it's a brilliant book written back in the 1930s and still is important today. And really it's about the time that because we all run with minds that go 100 miles an hour, and particularly with the internet, your mobile phones, everything going in, quite often we don't spend any quality time thinking. And we need to focus in on what we're doing, spending time working on that, and then getting motivated. It's certainly well worthwhile, reading if you can get it. It's off. It's certainly off copyright, so you can get the PDF quite easily just online. The main thing is, as I said, is to use your mind productively, because at the end of the day, the only difference between us and animals who run on instinct is our ability to think. Now, the problem about that is, particularly last year, there's a lot of negative think, but there's also a lot of positive think. So, how much time do you spend on a day in circular thinking or negative thinking? What happens is you go down in a vortex. So typically we might criticize ourselves or criticize someone, and then we get angry with ourselves for criticizing that person. Then we get guilty of ourselves for getting angry for criticizing that person. We end up in this spiral, which is, it's quite easy to amend that and amend your thinking so that we get in, not the positive thinking, but we get constructive, well-determined, focused thinking. So get those goals, use that process, and again, go out to the end of 2021, look back and say, okay, what are my 3 objectives? And then when you're doing that and you see those 3 brilliant pictures of whatever you've got, even if it's just one picture that I want to bring in an extra, $300,000-$400,000 into my practice, get a feeling of what that's going to be like. And then once you get that visual, then look for a time that you've been super excited all your life. One time in your life when your excitement level was up around about a 10 or 11, and then when you get that excitement level, drop that excitement level in on that picture of you looking back at your achievements for the year. And that will then give a really positive energy to that, because again, that's what we're doing now, is getting so far away from a wish, which is, oh, I'd like something to happen in the future, but there's nothing, there's no visuals, no timeline, nothing. So you might say, I'd like to get $1,000. And then that might happen in 30 years' time because you put no reference on it. Whereas if we go out, look back, energize that, it makes a huge difference. I can guarantee on that one. So you want to start with that end in mind. And when you get that picture, make it really big, 3D, full color, make the noises, the feelings, get that excitement into it. And then importantly, one of the big things out of Napoleon Hill is Think and Grow Rich is to get a mastermind. One of the things that, I sit down each and every day, and Ash has been great on this, is we have a 9:30 meeting. What's everyone doing? Where's the gaps? So all going back to what Michael's saying, so that we're all focused in on that and focused in on our achievements. And there's plenty of people around, whether it's Change GPS. I know Tim's got a session up here on the 1st of February that it will be attending. And it's great to get involved with like-minded people and bounce ideas off. So, we're going that. Now, final one, just as a wrap up, I just want to give you a bit of a heads up. In terms of the association, we'll have a webinar next week. What I'll do is I'll roll out the draft competency standards, and these are set at a postgraduate level. It does not mean that you need to have a prior qualification. They're set at quite a high postgraduate level. I'll take you through those competency standards, and then I will leave them open for 2 weeks. The board will leave them open, so you can make comments. Should you add this? Should you add that? Within the spirit of things, and then they'll be ratified by the board. So once they're ratified by the board, then it's a matter of going through the process of looking for appropriate training programs. Now, obviously, I'll be building a training program, which at this stage looks as though it'll be 13 modules. Obviously, it'll be backed by the book we've got that Michael, myself, and a few other practitioners are writing different chapters on. We'll build an assessment around that. And at the end, the SPEPA, which is the Succession Asset Protection and Estate Planning Advisors Association, will offer a designation as Succession Asset Protection Estate Planning Advisor. So if you complete the assessment, you'll get a certificate that you are a Succession Asset Protection Estate Planning Advisor. and then you'll be off and running. So it doesn't matter whether you're an accountant or a financial planner or mortgage broker. It's about going through the 13 modules. And look, there will be, I'm sure, Kaplan, there'll be other people around who will build these. But again, that's why I humbly ask you that we all put in our, because we're creating something on the fly, we want to put in there our competency standards that aren't going to be watered down, so that we know anyone who is an advisor in this area has got the right wherewithal. And likewise, when we're dealing with lawyers, I mean, we can ask them, you know, have they got their accreditation for this perspective? Now, there's no need to be licensed, but again, we're coming under this one association. As Michael said, make sure you come to the session tomorrow. It'll be fantastic. And look, play around with the 2021 budgeting tool. In that one, I don't know how it came out, but you know, we show in there we've got more than $1 million in revenue. And look, to be brutally honest, here's again another little idea that, you know, I can't believe people haven't done, is if you can go in and test our strategies, our solution, the marketing on your existing clients, as Michael said, because it's going to cost nothing to do that. The only side is the upside, because the clients are going to get a better product, so on and so forth. If you know how to deliver that into accounting or a financial planning base, it'd be so easy to go and either JV with another accountant or financial planner, or simply buy their book and then get rid of all the stuff you don't want, and then market this high net worth into that on a vendor finance. And I can tell you, if you have a look at those numbers, you know, your vendor finance, you're going to be paying it off. You'd pay it off over 2 or 3 years, but you're going to be well and truly profitable within about, I would say, probably no more than 3 months. You're going to be well ahead of the pack. So again, these are the sort of ideas. Once we get on top of this, does it work? Mark Peters, how does the SMSF accreditation differ from the financial planning? So can a SMSF do the role of a financial planner? Absolutely. So that's, for example, a classic one would be, Michael, do you just want to go through that one? You're a tax agent, so you're required to do CPE for your tax agent, but you're also licensed through a licensee. So you've got 2 separate rules applying to you. And then you probably, are you a member of the SMSF Association as well? So you've got another level on top of that.
I mean, financial planning, you're still in terms of providing specific and not general financial advice, you'd still obviously need to be an accredited financial planner, but the SMSF are different in terms of the asset protection, succession, estate planning. It's a different piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, so it sits quite separately. Again, I'll let you know when the webinar is coming next week, but look, it's an exciting area. You don't need to be licensed for all of this, because a lot of the structures that we're building, whether it's leading member family protection trust, the protector, a lot of those aren't licensed because you're not dealing with financial products. Possibly when you're dealing with SMSF pensions or reversionary pensions, you might need to be licensed, or alternatively, what we're finding is we're finding a few people will be using like setting up of SMSFs. We're finding that people are coming to Abbott-Family. We can facilitate the process of setting it up using the lawyer's exemption and then handing the client back to you. So there's a lot of opportunity. I see 2021 as it's virtually a blank sheet of paper, because all the stuff that we knew 2019 virtually was washed away with the COVID tsunami. We're all now really running on our feet, absolutely, because we don't know what's coming down the track. Again, take yourself out to 2021, look around your greatest achievements, get some excitement into it, and know that, look, by the end of March 2021 or by Easter time, you'll be a fully accredited succession, asset protection, estate planning advisor. So all the Excel spreadsheet we gave, you know, that's where the really good advice area is going to move in. But look, that's enough from Mike and myself. Thanks a lot, Mick, for your insights and giving up some valuable comments. And more importantly, if people want to get in contact with you, what's your best email address?
You can use michael@lightyeardocs.com.au or michael@iloveaccounting.com.au.
Okay, and of course mine's just Grant at like your docs.com.au or grant.abbott@abbottmorley.com.au. So it's MOURLY. Anyway, that's enough for us. I'll get this this recorded up and running. And look, thank you very much for giving your time for this. These are the sort of sessions. Guess what? They're not urgent, but they're super important. The more time you can spend on these important and not urgent and building that business plan, building that marketing plan, getting it out to the clients, the better you're going to be rewarded. Just really go for broke. Again, as I said, you know, you shoot for the moon, and if you miss the moon and hit the stars, well, you're in a pretty good position. Anyway, it's Grant Abbott, Michael, signing off.
Thanks, bye.